Hello, Marco. Erica, can you hear me?
Hi, Mark. Can you hear me?
Yes, Marco, I can hear you.
Okay.
So you
And
got up early morning.
yeah. Can you remind me how to put the background in Blue Jeans?
Um, Today I did it. Let me check.
I see you have it. So
Yes, I put it yesterday. Now I have to remember how I did it.
Hi, this is Erica. Maybe I can help.
hi, Erika. How are you?
When you go to
I'm
settings,
good.
it's start.
Yeah.
Marco, when you go to settings, right side top on your screen, because you see video, audio, then right side corner you see settings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when you click it, choose virtual background.
Your settings. I have camera, microphone, speakers, but I don't see virtual background.
No?
But okay, otherwise.
Um,
So you said in settings, then
yes.
so I see
You
camera,
don't see
microphone.
choose virtual background, or because there is camera, microphone, speaker.
Yeah. And
Erica, are you there?
Yes. Hi. Marco, do you have the desktop app installed, or are you on browser?
no, I'm browsing.
Ah, I see. Okay, maybe that's why. Because I think we're all using the desktop app.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, so I will stay like this. Okay, thanks a lot.
But at the same time, Marco, you have Blue Jeans account, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Andrea. How are you?
How are you all today?
Lana?
Yes.
So we have about 8 more minutes.
Okay. I'm just going to try and put the background on. And it was looking odd this morning, so maybe someone can tell me if it looks the right way round when I try it.
You have a nice banner with your name and
Yes, it shows very well, Andrea.
Yeah, Gabriella showed us how to do that yesterday. So, is that showing with the Eval Partners information the right way round? Because it looks backwards to me.
It does. It does show well.
Ah, good. Okay.
Can you tell me the same about me? Because I have, is it black? Do you see the black screen? behind?
Yeah, it looks good. It's a lot more flattering for the complexion than this white background with me. But maybe that's because you have a
Good
much
point.
more beautiful face than I do.
I think both you and I are pale, so equally pale.
Okay, great.
I don't know why it's black, but now I lost track of the signature and I cannot find that function. I remember she talked about it and now I don't see it. Oh my goodness.
I think it was again if you went to preferences.
Settings, right?
I also missed it.
Huh?
I also missed it when she.
It seemed
if you
very
go-
easy that very second.
I can explain. If you go to preferences and you can see there's a tab that says lower third.
But
So it
Preferences
says
and-
virtual background.
Lower third, okay.
Lower third. If you click on there, then it allows you to put in your information and choose the color of the banner. So
But
I've just
preferences
made
are not settings, right? It's where's the
settings, and
Settings
then
down.
in settings,
Settings bottom.
preferences. Yeah.
settings preferences? Oh, preference. Okay, got it. Okay, got it. Yes. Okay, lower third. Okay, got it. Yay! Thank you very much.
Stick with the green.
Great to see you all, by the way.
Well, hello.
Veronica.
We're still waiting for Marco, Serge, Ada.
No, Marco is here. He has been here for a while.
We have, but they don't have the cameras on yet, right?
He did. We saw his face.
Hello, I'm back. How are you?
Great to see you. Hi, Marco.
Hi. Sorry, I'm not able to upload the background. So the entire attention will be on myself.
Which usually goes well, whatever the background you have.
Yeah.
Shaded.
Hi, Andrea. How are you?
Hi, Marco. But you look like you're in the fog.
Yeah, I'm in the fog. I'm in the fog of the early morning.
That's true.
Because here is
yes.
5:30 a.m. So
Oh,
I hope you will forgive me if I will say something that I should not.
You should put in your signature 5 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
For sympathy.
it's a clear indication of commitment.
Waiting coffee.
Yeah.
More
But you,
cappuccino.
Svetlana, you are not in the US? No, you are now. Where are you now?
Rome.
In Rome.
See? I'm wide
Okay.
awake already. Yes.
Uh-huh. And you, Veronica, where are you?
I'm in Latvia. We have
Okay.
even an hour later than Andrea and Svetlana.
Uh-huh. Okay. That's great.
I'm almost eating lunch, whereas you don't think about your breakfast yet, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and tomorrow will be even worse because Andrea, we have the other one. I think it's 1 hour earlier than today.
Yes. Oh gosh, you are dedicated, Marco.
Yes, I think 4:20 your time is that.
Yeah.
No, and I'm afraid that's my fault, isn't it? Because the session they gave us would have been fine for you, but it clashed with our executive board meeting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know, the board meetings are always have the priority.
Just a very quick checkup. Do we have someone filling for Ada? Because I think I see Gabriela as well. Gabriela?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful.
Hi,
And
Gabriela.
Hi, Marco. Hi, Andrea.
Hello.
Azela.
I saw actually Ada, was there as a speaker, visible in the panel as well, and she updated her profile.
okay,
So
so show me.
I thought
show me.
she.
Yeah, but if she's still in Peru, I think that she's sleeping like me. Actually, I think Peru is even 1 hour ahead of
Yeah.
New York, so
Exactly.
it's really
Around
quite
4
early.
a.m.
Yeah.
Do we have any other support from Eva SDGs here, or I will try to contact her quickly over the WUHA and see if she's here. But I think the time is merciless on us which I thought as well is actually very good because when we need to speak about sense of urgency in evaluation and quick transitions while we're running out of time, having a very, very strict 1.5 hours helps to realize that. Andrea, you'll tell me when you want to start, and
Veronica, is
I'm
our
ready
time
when
up
you
or
are,
still we have?
Veronica. But you're chairing and moderating.
yes, I just want to know when we're starting, when we're kicking off.
Okay. I suppose we should get starting soon, shouldn't we? So we maximize the use of the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we'll see whether we have also the fifth network joining us. We very much hope so. Okay, we have for now 23 people, probably still some joining. This is still a transition between the rooms is a bit of a challenge on the first day of the conference, as always. Welcome, everyone. We have very strict 1.5 hours of a time. And unfortunately, no common lunch after the session to follow up. So let me start by greeting all the speakers and participants. We are very glad to have the lead representation of at least 4 Eval Partners networks, very much hoping for the 5th to join very soon. I would like to remind you to keep your mics turned off at all times unless you're speaking to us. And I invite speakers to leave your cameras on if possible, but others to keep the camera on at points of our discussions. And now, when the housekeeping is finished, I would like to introduce our leader, the co-chair of Eval Partners, Andrea Cook, who will give a short summary of Eval Partners' reflections on Eval agenda to date and sketch the roadmap to its renewal. Although among our speakers, she and the next speaker need no introduction, but for the sake of our audience, let me just quickly mention that Andrea Cook joined the World Food Programme in 2017 as the Director of Evaluation, providing leadership for the evaluation function globally, with its headquarters in Rome. Previously, she was the Director of Evaluation in UNFPA, and before that in United Nations. She has been also working for over 20 years in international development, starting from the Department of International Development in UK. She's currently the co-chair of Eval Partners and serves as the vice chair of the United Nations Evaluation Group from 2015 to 2017. She serves on a number of expert advisory groups and scientific panels for research and evaluation initiatives. Thank you very much, and Andrea, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Veronica. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues, wherever you are. A very warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining us today. What a pleasure it is to provide the opening remarks for this esteemed panel at the European Evaluation Society's first ever virtual conference. By now, we've really become accustomed to this new way of meeting and learning, and yet every so often we do still have to stand still and ask ourselves how this new normal will affect the future work of evaluators around the world. And therefore, the theme of this year's conference provides a very apt departure point for us to discuss our Eval future and our shared vision for a global evaluation agenda in a post-COVID world. In June, many of the same people on this panel gathered at a global event to explore how we can build forward better towards a renewed global evaluation agenda. And this is a very important issue right now for us. The co-creation of the Eval Partners Eval Agenda 2020 does not need a long introduction. In my view, I feel it was a true testimony to the power of the collective. It was a decision by the 5 Eval Partners networks in Kathmandu, Nepal in 2015 to commit to a common vision to drive forward the Eval Agenda 2020. And this marked a major milestone for global evaluation, in my view. For the first time in history of evaluation, coordinated global networks were created to lead focused efforts in building our global evaluation culture, bringing together different stakeholders from around the global evaluation system. As we turn to our panel shortly, we'll hear more from the networks themselves on the progress that were made across the Eval Agenda's 4 dimensions, which are building individual capacities, building institutional capacities, creating an enabling environment for evaluation, and establishing interlinkages across these 3 dimensions. Before we hear from our panelists, I'd like to share with you a brief overview of recent work conducted by the Eval Partners family to take stock of progress towards Eval Agenda 2020, which will feed into its renewal. 2020, with its very unexpected turns and twists, provided a really ideal opportunity to pause and reflect on the successes and the failures of the Eval Agenda. And to allow for this in Eval Partners, we developed a roadmap to 2030, marked by 4 key steps. Firstly, stock taking on progress towards Eval Agenda 2020. The second step was to engage with stakeholders and hold consultation processes in different fora to understand what came out of the stock taking and where we should go forwards. The third step is drafting the new Eval Agenda 2030, building on what we've learned. And the fourth step will be dissemination and advocacy of the renewed Eval Agenda And that will include encouraging more partners to commit to delivering the agenda as we move forwards to 2030. And so under the first step, stock taking, Eval Partners embarked on a collective review exercise, which has combined multiple processes and consultations with various Eval Partners task forces, committees and networks. In May this year, Eval Partners published the evaluation of our strategic plan of the period 2018 to 2020, and that's a key milestone in our evolution as a movement, and provided much meat for this stock-taking process, looking at how Eval Partners directly has contributed to the Eval agenda, and it will directly inform the new strategic plan from 2022 and how Eval Partners as a family will work to rise to the challenge of Eval Agenda 2030. We've also consulted a number of other data sources though, and these include vibrant ideas raised by our panelists at the Glocal, deep self-reflections from the various Eval Partners networks, a UNEG progress report on the implementation of the 2014 UN resolution on building national evaluation capacities, and an Eval Agenda review survey. Talking a bit more about the survey, this was launched in March 2021 in 4 languages and was closed on the 5th of June. We were delighted to have received 130 responses from a diverse range of stakeholders across the globe. And if you allow me, let me share a few high-level results. So, true to the Eval Partners constituency base, our respondents largely represented the VOPEs and development agencies. But there was quite a spread of other respondents too, which was encouraging to see. When asked to rate the progress of each of the 4 dimensions of the Eval Agenda, respondents believe that most progress has been achieved under the pillar of strengthening institutional capacities, including those of VOPEs and civil society. 45% of respondents felt that the Eval Agenda has led to stronger institutional capacities to a very large or large extent. The dimension in which respondents felt the second most progress has been achieved has been the strengthening of individual capacities, with 40% of respondents agreeing to this. And this was followed shortly and in the 3rd place by creating an enabling environment of evaluation, with 39% of respondents agreeing that Eval Agenda has achieved this outcome to a very large or large extent. However, the dimension where respondents feel that more progress could be achieved is the creation of stronger interlinkages between each of these dimensions. And 33% of respondents felt that the Eval Agenda achieved little or made very little progress in this regard. And 39% really sat on the fence and had a neutral feeling. This finding challenges to rethink not only the role of evaluators, in my view, but also the role of Eval Partners in a small but dynamic and ever-evolving ecosystem marked by growing multiplicity of institutional mechanisms and activities. One respondent summed this up very well in their comments. They said there's an increased complexity of growing partnerships and evaluation architecture that needs to be considered more holistically to make sure we manage the risk of working in silos. And while we strive towards an Eval Agenda that fosters greater collaboration, interlinkages and connection, we cannot turn a blind eye to the challenges we face. Even before the pandemic struck, progress towards achieving the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda has been slow. And today, many of the 169 targets that were set by global leaders may be near impossible to reach for most countries. The critical need to regain and accelerate progress towards the SDGs has a ripple effect on our profession. And let me highlight from the survey only a few of the problems our respondents felt the EVAL agenda should consider in the road to 2030. These include improving the cultural responsiveness of evaluation, the challenge of growing inequality, which is mirrored by inequity in the evaluation discipline itself, the persistent attention to the supply side rather than the demand side of evaluations, the need to establish the connection between evaluation and the SDGs, particularly at community, local and national level, the integration of a social justice orientation to evaluation, the need to address digital work practices in relation to the digital divide, and to ensure that we're raising awareness beyond our evaluation circle, and specifically to do more to reach out to the private sector. And finally, professionalisation. And this is just a few of the areas that respondents to the survey feel that the renewal of the EVAL agenda needs to find a way to embrace and address. So there were very strong sentiments expressed for moving to an EVAL Agenda 2030 that promotes transformation and puts a greater emphasis on addressing global inequities and also climate change. So many challenges to address, but let me hand on a high note. EVAL Partners has demonstrated once before that VOPIs and other members of civil society, UN agencies, governments, bilateral banks, academia, social justice organisations, individual evaluators, and many more can rally behind a shared vision for evaluation, and we can certainly do it again. With this panel, we're entering this second step in the roadmap towards drafting and recommitting to the EVAL Agenda 2030, the deeper consultation and engagement. And with that, I urge you to join the movement. Please take the opportunity today to feed back to us, but also to engage in another series of consultation events we'll be organising over the next few months. And make sure you have your say in an EVAL agenda that will require honesty, boldness, humility, and above all, compassion from us all. So we invite you to be part of the EVAL agenda journey and participate in the various upcoming consultations and events. And with that, I really thank you for allowing me this time and to express my gratitude to our chair and panelists who will be sharing their thoughts and reflections on this important agenda today. So I look forward to fruitful deliberations. Many thanks, and I'll hand back to Veronica.
Thank you so much, Andrea. And I think coming up, I would refer to what our keynote speaker was saying in his speech this morning, that we have a great responsibility and opportunity to transition to a healthier planet and healthier communities. Thank you so much. That was really fascinating. And now I would like to give voice to Marco. Marco, we now turn to you for the origin, as you were in great inspiration to the original EVAL agenda, and I would not commit to its shape without your efforts and the efforts of people who you were inspiring at the time. We very much consider your joint efforts, like EVAL for Action campaign in cooperation with UNFPA with EVAL Youth, as well as supporting many initiatives and actions and events such as this, as the bridge between the past and the future of the EVAL agenda. Thank you very much for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Veronica, and hello, everybody. Really great pleasure to be here with all of you today. As Veronica said, at that time in 2012, so it's almost 10 years now, I had the privilege to be the co-founder and the first co-chair of EVAL Partners. And so if we want to speak about Eval Agenda, I think it's very important also to speak very briefly about what have been the key principles that have guided Eval partners in the past. And just because sometimes it's also important to look back to move forward. And just to mention that Eval Partners was founded in 2012, and together with several colleagues, and some of the key ones are speakers today, like Ada Ocampo, Serge Eric, Azela. So several colleagues came together to do something new, and mainly these colleagues were all the colleagues from IOC, and at that time from UNICEF. And the key principle were that against which, let's say, Eval Partner was based. It was one of the thoughts of Jean Quesnel, who at that time was the director of the UNICEF Evaluation Office. And that was that Jean was always saying that evaluators should not wait for anybody to empower themselves, but evaluators should empower themselves. And so based on this principle, Eval Partners was found. And the other key principle that has guided Eval Partners so far are the ones that were outlined and agreed by all the participants of the first Eval Partners Forum in Chiang Mai in Thailand back in 2012. And those principles are the following. First, that we are all united in a new alliance based on the principle of equity, gender equality, social justice as central values, and founded really on shared principle of partnership, innovation, inclusivity, human rights, and common goals. That, by the way, all of these principles are reflected in the UN resolution on SDGs in 2015 that I will talk a little bit more later. The second key principle is really the importance of country-led evaluation system and functions. So really saying that evaluation systems must be led by national and local stakeholders, and they are key because they contribute to the development interventions that are effective, efficient, and responsive. The third key principle is that civil society organizations in general, and VOPES in particular, must play a key role in influencing and enhancing the demand for evaluation and the use of evaluation results. At that time, very few people were speaking about demand for evaluations. And as Andrea just mentioned, but from the result of the surveys, it looks like that we have done some progress in generating the demand, but there is still much room to improve. And the principle that through the cooperation, we should enhance the capacities of civil society organizations, notably VOPES, to contribute to local, national, and global sustainable development through evaluations. So I think that when we will talk about the future of the Eval Agenda, it will be very important to always keep in mind these principles that have guided Eval Partners and the Eval Agenda for the last almost 10 years. And the last things before I close is just to say that the entire idea of Eval Agenda, when it was conceptualized a few years ago, it was that it should not be a strict conceptual framework, but it should be a kind of Eval vision for the future. So while the Eval Agenda was giving a conceptual framework on how to strengthen national evaluation capacities, the idea of Eval Agenda was that it should be a call for action for a vision of a world that we would like in the future. And that, I think, should also be one of the key principles that we should keep when we talk about the future of Eval Agenda. We should see it not as a simple document, but we should see as a vision for what the global evaluation community wants to achieve in the next years. Thanks a lot. Over back to you, Veronica.
Thank you so much, Marco. And indeed, that visionary roadmap helps us to connect with the past. And I think it's also inspiring even for our speakers to relate and ground well their contributions. Now we will be moving to the first round of the questions asked to each network. And that's really amazing because I don't think we usually have time in Eval Partners, even in all of the administrative work, to really listen to each other and to spend time with each other, even if it's online. So first question I would like to pose, starting from Ada, and the question is: in relation to the work of your network, what do you consider to be the most important area of progress made under the Global Eval Agenda? Ada Ocampo has worked in the UN system since 1990. She is the current president of IDEAS. She was one of the co-founders of the International Organization for Cooperation in Evaluation and of the Latin America Evaluation Network. She's the co-chair of Eval SDGs and supports the Secretariat of the Global Parliamentarian Forum for Evaluation. Great to have you with us, Ada, and the floor is yours. You need to unmute yourself.
Yes, I am unmuted now. Thank you very much, Veronica. Good morning, colleagues. Good afternoon for some of you. I'm delighted to be here. Great question and great topic. I think it's of extreme importance. Let me start by saying that the Eval Agenda 2020 has served for the various organizations that form part of Eval SDGs and also IDEAS, where I am now, as an important framework guiding the work in evaluation in these different dimensions. One of the achievements I would like to highlight and the efforts that Eval SDGs has been doing was precisely in an area that seems to deserve more attention for the future, is in creating the demand, working with governments to create the demand to raise awareness on the importance to undertake country-led evaluations of the SDGs. We have had some level of achievement, especially with some countries that managed to undertake these country-led evaluations, and we can count Finland, Nigeria, then Costa Rica, and then Peru with a rapid evaluation of SDG 4, and now Colombia being prepared for that, and hopefully many other countries. In that sense, the importance of the creation of the demand. And in institutional capacities, I agree with the results of the survey, is probably the area where most achievement has been made. We have various organizations interested in that have embraced evaluation in their institutional policies, that have upgraded the function of evaluation. And it's also important to mention that these institutions are coordinating with others in order to offer services related to evaluation in different areas and in different regions and countries. So also there has been lots of activities that both Eval SDGs and IDEAS have done in terms of training and raising individual evaluation capacities, using for that various fora like the BOPE regional BOPE conferences, global conferences, United Nations conferences, etc. International organizations like the United Nations organizations, bilaterals like Finland, Nepal, have made a tremendous contribution, but not only in terms of budget, as the agenda suggests. I think that the role of international organizations, both UN and other international organizations, need to be acknowledged in a more explicit way, because in this agenda, and I have been part of it in the writing, so it's not a criticism to others, it's just a self-reflection. It's just confined to providing budget. And we see that since Evad Partners started, we had always a co-chair that was representing the UN, and we have active actors from the bilaterals and other multilateral organizations that are also participating beyond providing budget, and probably some of them not even providing budget, but providing value added. So there has been a progress in the three areas. Of course, there is further work to be done, and that I will touch upon that in my second intervention, but I think we should be proud, and I agree that the vision should be, the next EVAL agenda should be more focused on a vision for the future. I agree with Marco, but I would add that we'll also need to have clearly established global priorities. Only if we have priorities set up, and can be big areas of priorities or more focused areas of priorities, but only if we have global priorities, we can work together in a more coherent and more synchronized way. So I think that's important, and with that, I thank you very much, Veronica, and to the panel here, and over to you.
Thank you so much for your intervention, Ada. And so I would sum up vision supplemented by priorities and budget. And now I would like to give voice to Gabriela Rentiera Flores, who is the current chair of EVAL Youth Global Network and works as an independent consultant working on multiple development projects in India and Mexico. She's an active member of EVAL Youth LAC and the National Academy of Evaluators in Mexico. The floor is yours, Gabriela.
Thank you, Veronica, and thanks to everyone. Thanks for the invitation. It's an honor to be here with all of you, with all the EVAL champs, and have the opportunity to reflect on the global agenda for evaluation. In EVAL Youth, we have started the processes of self-reflection, and we have learned what we have done and what do we want to achieve. This year, as you know, EVAL Youth had an election process that led to a new management group and executive committee for a 2-year period. So it was kind of the perfect timing to start reflecting on these issues, right? And the first thing is, personally, I believe that EVAL Youth itself is one of the most important progress made under the EVAL Agenda 2020, because it has been advocating for the inclusions of young and emerging evaluators in all the process of evaluation, not only as beneficiaries, but as evaluators, advisors, policymakers. We are a network of and for young people, and we want to promote youth participation in the entire evaluative process. We want to see the young and emerging evaluators as leaders of transformative change and activists for social change, for social justice. And we, in the network, we believe that we have taken very seriously the EVAL Agenda 2020, and we have internalized and contributed to the 4 dimensions, because we've been working on strengthening and enabling environment for evaluation, institutional capacities, but as well as individual capacities, and all the interlinkages among them. To strengthening and enabling environment for evaluation, EVAL Youth, as mentioned before, is co-leading EVAL for Action campaign along with UNFPA Evaluation Office and the Global Parliamentarians for Evaluation. This campaign calls upon all actors everywhere to accelerate the delivery of the Sustainable Development Goals by advocating for stronger evaluation capacities and evidence-based policies. We have encouraged national consultations and commitments for the SDGs and the important role of evaluation in this. Also, as part of this campaign, young and emerging evaluators are leading actions towards influential evaluation, because we are eager to make a transformational change, to build back better, to assure a stable and prosperous life for everyone, to deliver the SDGs everywhere. This itself is a great challenge. And now that was coped with the effects of the COVID pandemic, it's a real challenge for the entire evaluation community. We in Eval Youth understand the prime role of capacity development, high quality and professional evaluations to achieve these global goals, and understand the importance of strengthening institutional and individual capacities. And besides advocating for these stronger evaluation capacities, we look to connect young and emerging evaluators to knowledge, to new opportunities in different areas. For example, we want to reach as many young and emerging evaluators as we can, and Eval Youth has a media center in which videos and other resources are published and are open to public access. The videos will disseminate information about mentoring programs, youth participatory evaluation, webinars on involvement of young and emerging evaluators in VOPES, etc. And we in the network are really committed to this goal to promote young and emerging evaluators in VOPES participation in several activities. We are a young network, and one of our values is to work together with allies, and we have found great support from different organizations, such as all the other Eval partners and networks as UNFPA, the Global Evaluation Initiative. We in Eval Youth, UNFPA Evaluation Office, and the Global Evaluation Initiative, for instance, just announced a partnership to advance the youth engagement in evaluation. And I think this is really important in this forum, because this partnership will align the global efforts to scale up on youth engagement in evaluation by promoting a common vision and approach and increased collaboration. We are also committed to leave no one behind, and in that sense, we have been supporting the creation of regional and national chapters of Eval Youth. So far, there are 7 regional Eval Youth chapters and more than 20 national chapters, and more to come soon. We have presence in all the regions in the world, and we are really proud of this. Furthermore, we have contributed to building individual evaluators' capacities by bringing opportunities to young and emerging evaluators, mentoring program, promotions of scholarships, and many others. Personally, I feel honored to be part of such an important network and being such part of this Eval partner community. And I would like to thank all the young and emerging evaluators who have built this network and hope that we can continue this way. Thank you very much. Veronica, over to you.
Thank you so much, Gabriela. Seems like the Eval Youth is spreading much quicker than COVID-19, and that is great news and a great achievement. Thank you so much, and I would like to give voice to Svetlana Negro-Esteva from Eval Gender Plus. She's the immediate former co-chair, and she's the evaluation function lead in the consultative group on international agriculture research. Svetlana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, colleagues. And it's really exciting to build on the presentations made by others and feel that we are moving together swimmingly. As some of you might know, Eval Gender Plus was created as a network consistent with one of the core principles that Marco identified in his launch at the time of the launch of Eval Partners. And Marco also was the first chair of Eval Gender Plus. And then I was honored to be co-chair with him. So that's just an important piece of history. And of course, we have continued working with Eval Partners and with the networks under Eval Partners. The mission of Eval Gender Plus is to promote and demand supply and use of equity-focused and gender-responsive evaluations, and not only towards SDG measurements, because as you know, the gender inequalities have been there before SDGs and unfortunately might prevail after. The evaluation community indeed has a responsibility for enhancing the use of evidence, showcasing the gaps and identifying ways forward to address such issues. EvalGender has made progress along all areas under the global agenda, and many in collaboration with other Eval Partners networks and other partners outside of the Eval Partners universe. Our strong focus has been on generating, disseminating, and engaging on the evidence around equity-focused gender-responsive evaluations and building the demand for such evidence to develop strategic approaches for addressing priorities of EvalGender Plus and Eval Partners at all levels, individual, institutional, and in the enabling environment at national, regional, and global levels. Towards those dimensions, on the strengthening enabling environment for evaluation, the progress has been made along eval use, building evaluation systems and enhancing eval systems, and such joint efforts with eval SDGs and our own efforts in conducting analysis of voluntary national reports towards SDGs for assessing the extent to which there is reference to gender and making recommendations how this reference should be enhanced and who should come to the table during the development of those voluntary national reports, but also during the implementation of commitments under SDGs. As part of enhancing evaluation systems, with strong collaboration with UN Women, who is the UN partner on EvalGender Plus, leading partner, technical assistance has been provided to 11 countries to strengthen gender responsive evaluation and national evaluation systems in the early 2015-16. And then in the 19, at the United UNDP NEC conference, National Evaluation Capacity, strong presentations were made and publication has been produced on how to enhance that. Needs assessment were conducted, as we believe in evidence building as evaluators. Needs assessments were conducted of VOPIS, on their capacities, on their needs towards enhancing the demand and use for gender equity focused and gender responsive evaluations. And we are preparing and strategizing how to conduct the second round to see if there were and there have been any changes. But that already laid out great work towards enhancing VOPI capacities and institutional and individual capacities. On that, the capacities front, there is, of course, nothing goes separate. The institutional capacities relate to individual capacities, VOPIs, whether they are considered a civil society or not. There is a demand, there is a need to build capacities, awareness, understanding of the priorities of the mission of EvalGender Plus, and including in the different thematic efforts. And for example, very recently, Eval Forward seminar was co-hosted, and Eval Forward is a community of practice on evaluation of food security, agriculture, and rural development, was co-hosted with EvalGender and Rome-based agencies, including CGIAR. In 2019 and 2021, we have awarded small grants to 8 VOPIs as seed funding, and their main objective was to identify and foster innovation at that level, at the level of VOPIs, and identify champions who can help us move our agenda forward. The interregional learnings obtained with the exchange of knowledge on the South to South P2P project has been really strong product and process, and has engaged such VOPIs, regional and national VOPIs in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. One of the key products was a Decalogue evaluation from a gender perspective, which was a community-driven document promoting use various networks. And that, of course, goes to the principle of leaving no one behind that is at the core, at the base of EvalGender Plus. Our regional and national chapters are slowly building up. Eval Mexico has come up very strongly in their work in advancing our agenda at their level and collaborating under RELAC. And GENSA, the Southeast Asia thematic VOPI, has been was launched last year, and they're helping galvanize this agenda. And the president of GENSA and co-chair of EvalGender Plus, Malzaveri. And of course, the very important aspect where we feel we have made great progress is the linkages, building linkages, striving to build linkages between Eval Partners networks and beyond. And on that, our collaborations at multitude of geolocal events and regional, national, and global evaluation conferences have helped us build those linkages and find common ground and see how we can work towards addressing the gender inequalities at different levels that need to be addressed based on evidence that we develop and continue enhancing. And I think with that, I will leave the floor to the next speaker. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you so much, Svetlana. There's lots to celebrate for sure. A lot has been achieved, and in both networking, analysis, seed funding, and continuing to develop different linkages. Thank you so much. That was really impressive. And I would like to give voice to Asela Kalungampitia, who is leading the Global Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, Marco, Andrea, and other colleagues for sharing your views. And regarding the Global Parliamentarians Forum, I still remember the very first panel with parliamentarians in early 2013 in an evaluation conference where they said that they need evaluation community help to demand and use evaluation. Because until then, what we were always saying was that parliamentarians are difficult, they don't understand evaluation, they don't know evaluation, they don't know evaluation. But we understood in that panel, and that was milestone, that parliamentarians need support and need to work with the evaluation community. And evaluation community needs to find a way to work with parliamentarians. So the Global Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation was launched to bridge this gap and also facilitate a dialogue between the evaluation community and parliamentarians, at the same time to promote demand and use of evaluation by parliaments and parliamentarians. Actually, the birthday of both Eval Agenda and the Global Parliamentarians Forum, same day at Parliament of Nepal in Kathmandu in November 2015. Regarding the Eval Agenda, what I see in Eval Agenda, the most specific thing is there is theory of change. That's where we talk about enabling environment, individual capacities, institutional capacities, as well as interlinkages, all of which are very much related to parliamentarians and parliaments as well. Because when it comes to enabling environment, we talk about national evaluation policies, laws about evaluation, and resources for that, and allocation of resources by the parliament for from the national budget for evaluation. So all these are involved. And most importantly, parliamentarians took lead in developing laws or inclusion of evaluation in the national constitutions. We have very good examples. Of course, Nepal. We had a champion parliamentarian, Honorable Ananda Pokharal. He was also part of the Nepal Constitutional Reform Committee, Development Committee, and he was instrumental in inclusion of evaluation in the Nepal Constitution, which is the most progressive arrangements for evaluation in a national constitution. Globally, there are about few examples: Switzerland, Cote d'Ivoire, Morocco, and Nepal. And Nepal has very comprehensive section on both monitoring and evaluation, and strong about evaluation. And second example was in 2016, one of the parliamentarian members was instrumental in Cote d'Ivoire, inclusion of evaluation in the national constitution. So these are examples. At the same time, in Sri Lanka, we have the national evaluation policy endorsed in 2018. Parliamentarians, because the first draft was prepared by the WOPE in 2003 with the invitation by the then government. but it took 15 years to endorse it. How it was endorsed? Actually, the parliamentarians said, we somehow need this very soon. So they did advocacy for this, and it worked very well. So parliamentarians can take lead in this, for the enabling environment for evaluation. At the same time, parliamentarians in Sri Lanka also submitted two motions. One is to bring the national evaluation policy, and also to get budget approved or fund allocation for the from the national budget for evaluation. So these are part of enabling environment. And when it comes to institutional capacities, actually institutionalization of evaluation within the parliament is very important. And again, one example from Sri Lanka, the parliament established a parliament select committee, and this is the first time I heard about parliament committee on evaluation. There may be other examples for sure. And then this select committee drafted the national evaluation bill, going beyond the policy, and also started training for the Parliament Research Unit. So that is part of the institutionalization of evaluation. And individual capacities also, we were working on capacity building of parliamentarians, parliament research staff, to, of course, demand for evaluation as well as use evaluation, because most difficult part parliamentarians have is, right, although evaluators say we have nice reports, we have very good evaluation findings and recommendations, can we expect parliamentarians to read 200, 300 page report and use evaluation? It's not going to work. So that's why parliamentarians need support from evaluation committee. Evaluation committee needs to think how to produce brief reports. That is one thing. Secondly, how parliamentarians can easily use findings and recommendations for their work. And in this way, we thought that parliamentary research unit definitely have a role. They can package evaluation findings and recommendations in the brief reports and pass to the parliamentarians for their use. So that is why capacity building of parliament research unit staff as well. So many parliamentarians received IPDAT training so far, and many other trainings, including Clear Anglophone Africa, AppNode, and Global Parliamentarians Forum, together with UNICEF, UNFPA, and other partners, conducted many training programs. At the same time, quickly, I want to mention that I mentioned about the first parliamentarians panel. After that, I see parliamentarians are represented in each and every conference, evaluation conference, and also they engage with dialogue with evaluation community. So this is a significant change we see that this dialogue is going on. With this note, I would stop here. Definitely, we can have more interaction. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Asela. And I think it's very important also to mention that Asela is the president of both Sri Lanka Evaluation Association and the Asia Pacific Evaluation Association, but he has worked for decades also with different bilateral agencies, and he was instrumental in managing the International Year of Evaluation 2015 and organizing the Global Evaluation Forum. As I often say, there are people in Eval Partners who are the soul or the head or the hands of Eval Partners, and he was definitely always very on the spot to help with everything what we were taking on. I know we have little time, and we need to be looking at the time as well, but we have one more person to complete our first round of questions, and I think it's also important to celebrate the achievements that we have made since 2015. I would like to introduce Serge Eric Yakuadiam, who is leading the Eval Indigenous Network. He's the credential evaluator with over 18 years of research and evaluation experience in Africa, Asia, Europe, and North America. He's the Vice President of Ideas right now and the Chair of Eval Partners Coordination Committee. Serge, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And then I think I want to really give shout thanks for our partners who are organizing these special events. Particularly, when you hear about indigenous, people look about, indigenous simply means like those have been marginalized. So, and then that's why we are working strongly, to highly support, the left no one behind principle, under the agenda. So, as you know, our goal is to promote, as I said, and support indigenous people evaluations agenda, because we believe that a part of the classical approach to evaluations, we have to think about the traditional evaluation method and approach. That's why our work is to only focus on this special area, basically looking about what marginal people at the local level, at the most remote level, are doing to support their own development. So to be brief, today we're using our native voice projects. We succeed to complete about 50 plus case study from indigenous leaders from around 20 countries in Africa, Pacific, North America, and Asia. So within the voice project, we support the reconnections, the understanding, and implementation of indigenous evaluation practice within indigenous community and also within our neighbors partners. The voice project helps also to support and document evaluation and research protocol. And then particularly, most recently, we complete the Indigenous African Protocol for Evaluations in line with the United Nations Declaration on the Right of Indigenous People. Why? We believe that evaluation should be guided by the ethics and principles. And then those ethics also are the backbones of our professions. So basically also with indigenous people, they have specific ethics and protocol on board when conducting evaluation at the local level. With our first Indigenous Evaluation Conference held in New Zealand 2 years ago, we support to bring in together 100 plus tribes, let's say tribal nations from New Zealand, Africa, Australia, Canada, Iceland, to share their knowledge and also to support the increased awareness on indigenous evaluation approach. Because we always think that we have to really focus on about what it can be done most dearly when we are working with a remote community and when we are working in the remote locations. And the same conference was an opportunity to facilitate indigenous people's self-determination and other evaluation agendas. This includes also their full participation in evaluation in the community. They are the key actors. And then within the conference, we had an opportunity, to share case study and lesson learned from different perspectives around the world. But nonetheless, most recently, we decided to move around with a more increasing support by launching the small grounds with the objective to focus on the case study, specific case study, basically from Asia and Africa. We start in these two continents to look about what is the backbone of the evaluation practice for those communities. That was good enough. That's why we collaborate with the VOPES, like Sri Lanka Evaluation Associations, Pakistanis Evaluation Associations, and also other VOPES in Africa. And with the case study, it was an opportunity for us to promote the indigenous evaluation approach as well as local innovations, because there are very nice innovation happening in the community for which without case study, we cannot capture those practices and bring them on board to support the agendas. And then not lastly, with a small grant project, we understand that we have to put emphasis to cultivate and the use of indigenous evaluation methodology, because those methodology are very useful into implementing our evaluation, even within the UN and also within other bilateral organizations worldwide, because those methodology are very specific. Basically, for example, we're using the storytelling approach. This is why we put emphasis and focus to raise the awareness that those methodology are really, really specific and very target to what we are looking for in terms of achievement and evidence in evaluations. So briefly, this is what we have been able to achieve, and then we are now connected, being known as global networks for indigenous people in the world. That's why since 4 years now, we're the last baby of Eval partners. To support Eval agendas, but we succeed to be connected and be known in the world as a global movement for indigenous people. So this is briefly what I have to say about our key achievement to date. Of course, there's a number of achievements on board.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Serge. Always wonderful to hear your fantastic remarks, but also to see your smile. And I remember that on every physical meeting. Andrea, I think your role as the person who will be giving the closing remarks is complicating with every answer of our speakers, but all trust in you. Let's move on to the round two. Unfortunately, I would like everyone to really be even more concrete. That was a long list and not easy to shorten, but the second question is very concrete. And let's continue with the same sequence with Ada, answering the question: what would be your top priority for the renewal of Eval Agenda?
Okay, thank you very much. First, to say that I didn't focus too much on activities we have done, as I understood that we should focus more on the value of the agenda as such. But I heard my colleagues talking about several activities. I just want to highlight one that should continue, that it's important. And I think that most networks have been very productive in terms of knowledge production. And that's an area that it's also a strength that has been barely mentioned. And I think, and if I just take a few examples of networks, the Global Parliamentarians Forum has done a lot on this, has done publications on case studies on evaluation systems, has done several briefing papers on how to engage, on how parliamentarians can understand evaluation, and there are various topics. Also important to mention, and sorry, Acela, I think that, sorry if I didn't hear well, but I think that to me, and let me invade a little bit the area where I have been working, a milestone, I would say, for the global agenda in general is Eval Colombo. Eval Colombo has been historic, has been a milestone, not only for the Global Parliamentarians Forum, but for the entire evaluation agenda, and has set the tone of the activities that were done, not only by the Global Parliamentarians Forum, but for various actors and networks after the event came into play. Important also to mention that the Eval SDGs has done the first ever guide on evaluation to connect national priorities with SDGs that has been translated into 3 languages, directed to governments and other institutions and other actors, and also the series of briefing papers that have been one of the documents that were most downloaded and used by others. Going now to the future, I would say that as Eval partners and all networks and all organizations being engaged in Eval partners and in different networks, we should think of working together towards creating the demand for evaluation. That's an area that we should focus more, and for doing that, we have key actors. And let me highlight the potential role that the Global Parliamentarians Forum can play on this. Of course, not alone, of course, together with others, but I would say that that's a special role that probably the Global Parliamentarians should move forward with our support, with our engagement. Also, there is a role for the BOPES here. If BOPES have clear priorities, I think they should also embrace this important initiative, and I think that the contribution of BOPE to national systems and priorities, it's very uneven. So that is one thing. The other thing is that I think that the next global agenda should be focusing more on the work with governments. There is very little emphasis so far in the role of governments. There is very little emphasis in the engagement of governments in our activities. Eval SDGs has been focused on a lot of that, but I think it has to be part of the priorities I was talking about that can follow the vision that Marco referred to. It's important they are key actors for also creating the demand, reinforcing the demand, and going into action when it comes to doing country-led evaluations of the SDGs. More emphasis, I would say, on evaluation use and influence, which are not exactly the same. They are linked to each other, but in evaluation use and influence, much more emphasis in the future evaluation agenda. And last but not least, I think that we have an important task to do together, and is to actually, based on these global priorities, to synchronize and to make more coherent the work that we are doing. If we do that, we will have more effectiveness in our work. We will avoid competition that sometimes naturally happens and sometimes not that naturally. We will, for example, launch campaigns not at the same time, but probably focusing in which campaigns are more important and which should happen first, second, or how can we engage in making those campaigns actually effective. So coherence, synchronization, and less competition. And I think that is something that we need still to work a lot. This can be reflected in the agenda in one way or the other, but in any case, if it's reflected or not, that is something that still needs to be strengthened in Eval Partners, and we need to work together more under principles for working together that all of us should embrace. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ada. I think those are crucial points, also referring to Andreas Cook opening remarks, but very clear and very concrete. Thank you so much. Let's move on to Gabriela.
Thank you, Veronica. I will try to make it short and go to the point. So, in my perspective, I want to participate in this occasion from two different arenas or spheres or dimensions, let's say. The first one is like the priorities as Eval Partners, and then as Eval Youth in particular. I think, as Marco mentioned, that the priorities should be guided by the values and principles followed by Eval Partners so far: equity, social justice, etc. And that we must continue to work together to break down the silos. So yeah, the 2030 agenda calls for breaking down the silos, and then we must continue working on this together, all the networks. And I think one of the priorities should be to promote young and emerging evaluators in all aspects of evaluation, but also in particular for our network. Besides that, is like we also want to see young and emerging evaluators as leaders of transformational change and activists for social change. So we believe in the power of youth as actors and drivers of change, and that we are key to achieving equity and sustainability and the Sustainable Development Goals. One thing that is important to mention is that like the new Eval agenda will take place at the same time as a decade of action. So we could frame the efforts towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. As a network, Eval Youth should work on the sustainability and to reach as many young and emerging evaluators as we can to increase this participation. One of our priorities is to innovate by using evidence and by using different methodologies. This COVID-19 pandemic time just brought us a lot of new challenges, and so we think that it's very important to innovate and to look from different ways to actually made influential evaluation possible. And another important thing is just like that one of our priorities is to go farther away with our programs, with our projects, and with our activities to connect young and emerging evaluators with the world of evaluation. And yeah, I actually think evaluation should take a priority position to advance the SDGs. And that will be it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Those are also very concrete points, and I think innovating to become influential and connecting with the Decade for Action, or all those things are coming up from multiple speakers. Can we move on to Svetlana?
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, colleagues. Of course, our priorities seems, and that's a good development, to overlap with those that have already been said, and I'm sure others will feel the same way. For us also, the synergies, coherence are key to how to move forward, and looking for opportunities for collaboration and building on strengths and avoiding duplication is something that is really key in the world where resources are becoming scarce by the minute, and of course partially due to COVID. For competencies, for understanding, calling for evaluations, including those that are prioritized gender equitable evaluations and those that address the principle of leaving no one behind is still important. It still will continue being important, and all of us have to come together to do this with Eval Youth, with Eval SDGs, and others. And linked to competencies is professionalization of evaluation, and it's not an easy word ever. And not just the technocratic approach, but also including values of inclusion and local wisdom in post-colonial world and post-truth world, as we might see, is also really important. And being very precise on the methodologies and approaches, and continue advocating and continue holding professionals, us as professionals, accountable. And of course, creating a demand from commissioners for downstream evaluations to ensure that all voices are heard in alignment with the leaving no one behind principle. While there's a great deal of upstream accountability to donors, the lacking downstream accountability for those who live the life and who projects address and programs address is still not there. And of course, creating a demand for evaluations that value adaptive programs and conceptualized designs would allow addressing the transformative aspects of Eval agenda. Thank you very much, and look forward to engaging with you all.
Thanks a lot, Svetlana. Asela?
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you also, Ada, for adding additional points. That was helpful because I was over time in the first round. Regarding what to continue, I think as Marco clearly mentioned, Eval agenda is not only for one organization, not only for Eval partners, it's Eval agenda. So all the priorities should, also, consulted with many, not only the networks, but networks can play an important role for sure. Regarding the Global Parliamentarians Forum, we did, global mapping on status of national evaluation policies and systems in 2013 and 15. And now this year again, continuing 2021 to update the mapping. Why? Because research is important and knowledge products for parliamentarians to take where to go is very important. So I think global evaluation agenda should continue research and creating, as Ada also mentioned, knowledge products should be a priority, and especially for Global Parliamentarians Forum. So all the initiatives are decided with this research findings. And second thing is we have been doing regional consultations on national evaluation policies and systems in each region, except Europe and North America, of course, but more global south. And last year also we did Asia Pacific regional consultation on national systems. Definitely that will continue, and because that includes different stakeholders, not only parliamentarians, government, payers, and facilitate this dialogue to promote national evaluation policies and systems. And then engaging parliamentarians in this evaluation dialogues, conferences, training programs, and capacity building. At the same time, we still need to find a way. I see that in Eval Forward also there's a discussion going on about sharing evaluation findings and recommendations. So that is a challenge still, and evaluation community needs to think about this. I think that well agenda should have a strong component for this, because I see that WFP has started in Asia Pacific visualizing evaluation findings and recommendations through short videos as well as web forms, and UNFPA is definitely sharing key takeaways on social media. And South Africa has 2551 policy for reporting. 25 is the main report, 5 is the summary, and one page for the decision makers like parliamentarians. Whether we promote this, so I think this is also should be a priority for our agenda, because always we say this is a challenge, but at the same time we need to act on this. And also producing credible, independent, and user-friendly evaluation reports. That is also challenging area, although we talk about it a lot. And the role of WOPE, working with parliamentarians, that we need to specify, and also train and educate WOPEs to work on that more. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Isabel. And some of those points are really important. And same like Ada was mentioning, also the role of WOPE. There is lots of room to still improve and build up their capacities. Serge, can we move on to you?
Yeah, thank you, Veronica. Very interesting questions. And then in line with the strengthening and enabling evaluations environment, we want to continue to keep focus about how we can give more space to indigenous principle and evaluation locally. For example, we want to strongly support to set, when we are doing evaluation, exactly for impact, to what extent we are going to include indigenous methodology, like storytelling with case study. And then this is our key focus to say that we are going to advocate with other UN agencies when conducting evaluation on the field to really think about how they got strong connections with the local evaluators. And those local evaluators have a good knowledge about the context and the culture of the countries. So they have the outstanding ground knowledge, or we touch base with the key area of focus if you want to work for impact. Secondly, with the no one left behind principle for evaluations, if I want to continue working with the key champions worldwide with the indigenous community in such a way that we want to succeed by the next 5-10 years to get like a mapping of indigenous community in the world, where we can capture some specific achievement in terms of indigenous evaluations. This is something behind our own minds, and then we're thinking about to achieve this. It's good for us to enlarge our partnership. Partnership not only with the VOPES, but also partnership with the key players in evaluations, also include UN agency, of course. And then, we want to also get in more achievement in terms of ethical protocol. We start with African ethical protocol for evaluations, and then with the next Africa conference coming in Addis Ababa in next November, we want to support, the connection with local approach, like the Made in Africa evaluation approach, to see how we can better partner with existing methodology locally. Thirdly, and not the least, we want to keep focus about how we can provide capacity, because implementing storytelling is not something an evaluator can just assume. How young and emerging evaluators within our community can also be involved in capacity building training and to use all those methodology, because connection with those principles needs some kind of capacity. That's why we believe that with the upcoming agendas, it's going to be an opportunity for engineers to get really these global connections with all partners in the world, to be seen as the key players into the indigenous evaluations. This is how, we have another speaker behind me. Thank you so much, Veronica.
Thanks so much, Serge. You know that I share your experience very often. Thank you so much for closing this round. And I think multiple voices has raised similar issues about avoiding duplication, creating even more synergies and coherence. But I think even more the knowledge production and the research is important here. I open for maybe 5 to 10 minutes floor for short discussion, and then we can move on to the closing remarks of Andrea. So I will control the situation a bit, but if there are any hands raised, I'm not sure how to do it here, but I hope you know, or at least unmute yourself and then let's discuss, because there's lots of material for it. The very first hand I have seen raised by chat was Marco. So maybe, Marco, if you would like to open the discussion.
Yeah, thanks a lot. No, just very quickly, two comments from my side. I think that the future priorities should really build and leverage on the success from the past. And to me, there are two big successes from the past. The first is that Eval Partners and Eval Agenda created a global movement with a direction. And that made possible the declaration of 2015 as the International Year of Evaluation. In the history of the evaluation community, it has been the first time that 1 year was declared an International Year of Evaluation. It really engaged hundreds of partners with almost 100 events organized throughout the world by governments, civil society, university, UN agencies, etc., etc. It even was instrumental in getting the United Nations General Assembly to also endorse the first ever UN resolution on evaluation. So that focus was on 2015, 1 year. So for the future, I think we should think moving from 1 year to 10 years, to a decade. And that's why this Decade of Evaluation for Action, or EVA for Action, was launched. And it's aligned to the UN Decade of Action to move and accelerate progress towards the SDGs. It's an intergenerational partnership. It empowers everybody and it's focused on action. So the first is this. The second big achievement from my perspective is that Eval Partner and Eval Agenda was really instrumental in creating this global movement of young evaluators. Before that, virtually or very few people was talking about young evaluators, etc. Now, young evaluators are really a key actor, not for the future, but for the present to ensure a sustainable future. And they are also key actors in the global evaluation community, leading the discussion in several arenas. So I think that building on the success of the past can give us a clear direction for the future. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Marco. I'm constantly thinking that this session is almost like a training session for everyone who is interested in Eval Partners. So I hope this recording will be published and many will be able to see it afterwards as well. Do we have any other questions? I think I haven't had a raising hand. Thank you. Ada, would you unmute yourself for the comment?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for, I agree that it's important to build in the achievements. And I think there are various achievements and we can actually expand the range to other actors that have led important initiatives. And we have various networks here. Previously, I mentioned Eval Colombo, which to me, it's a very important achievement, a global achievement, and that should continue because it was led by parliamentarians, but brought together the different actors in a discussion about where we are at and how to move forward together. So that is a very important achievement that we can build upon. Then the second aspect, I think that which has been a strength but needs further strengthened is the issue of partnerships. There each network and Eval Partners as a whole has worked with partners, and that has been successful. In the case of Eval SDGs, the partnership that was constant and continuous is the partnership with Finland, with the BAL from Germany, with IIED, which is a think tank, and with UNICEF, and now with IDEAS as well. It's a partnership that has led to very important activities like the retreat of Helsinki, which was the first time that a new resolution, the need for a new resolution on country-led evaluation of the SDGs was discussed, and now there is a movement led by Eval Partners that is going in that direction. And that is also a very, very important achievement in progress. The process is going, but I think it's also worth highlighting. Now, have we done enough in terms of partnership? Probably not. Probably there is more room to strengthen the partnerships and to strengthen the linkages with different organizations. Somebody mentioned the private sector, but I would say not only the private sector, of course, yes, but also possibly the media. But we also need to strengthen the partners with international organizations that have played a role in some networks, but are not necessarily playing a further role. And it's important to further engage more partners, but also to recognize their roles. Sometimes we have not been, it was not been intentionally, but sometimes we have not been fair enough in recognizing roles. For example, I was reading again the Eval Agenda 2020, and I didn't find a mention to the contribution to UNICEF, for example. That was one of the creators that has invested several resources, not only financial, and has contributed to different activities. I also didn't see the role of other UN agencies and international organizations, and that's why I'm proposing that the role of them is clear, is recognized as an actor that is not only meant with budget, but it's fully engaged, is doing contributions. And also we have some others like bilaterals, like Finland, like the BAL, like the Swiss. And I think it's important also to acknowledge their contribution. So be a bit more fair and more inclusive when we acknowledge the roles and contribution of other partners in the next Eval Agenda 2030. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ada. And I think it's important to remember that nowadays partners really want to be part of the initiatives, not just to fund them. And that's how we are also working with our partners, more and more with our partners. So I think it's something that has changed from the previous Eval Agenda. Now I would like to give voice already to Andrea to be able to summarize our discussions and give us the vision for future. Thanks a lot.
So thank you, Veronica, and thanks to all our panelists. My main takeaways, if I may, sort of starting with where we've come from and where we're going. The first one for me, and it's come through very clearly, is the need for us to be principled, to hold on to the guiding principles that were set out very clearly and have served us so well through this Eval Agenda and before, as Marco was reminding us. They remain very relevant, and at the core of this, as everyone has been emphasising, is the importance of equity and social justice, and as we go forwards, making sure that's rooted in the SDGs and the no one left behind. That's really fundamental. We've also heard at this session significant progress that's been made in all areas, across all networks and beyond Eval Partners, Eval Youth, Eval SDGs, Eval Gender Plus, Eval Indigenous, and very excitingly, I feel, the Global Parliamentarians Forum on Evaluation. And it's stimulated a very dynamic interchange, and that comes to the third point. Again, Marco emphasised this right at the beginning, this importance not just of how Eval Partners operates, but the wider evaluation community and how we connect in to the wider world. And it's this importance of multi-stakeholder partnerships, commitment and patience to work within that, and to ensure the excellence in organisation and transparency to bring all of that together. We've reflected on some really important milestones that we can really celebrate that have taken place over the past 12 years almost, and that enable us to see how these milestone events bring us together as a community, revive, refresh, recommit, and making sure that there's space to do that as we move to 2030 is going to be really vital for us. Notwithstanding that is a challenge in this virtual world that we're living and working in nowadays. So looking ahead, I think we can see that there is a clear focus on how we recommit to the vision, to ensure that we are working within a vision that provides us as a guiding light and not a blueprint to take us forwards. I think that's been very important in allowing 1,000 flowers to bloom, and we need to allow 1,000 flowers to bloom if we're really going to maximise the impact of this agenda. Turning to the way ahead, people have emphasised the importance of the demand side and getting that really balanced up. Core to that is something that's always been there, and that's the country-led evaluation dimension. We really have to put that to the fore and find ways to deliver around that. And that's why with Eval Partners, we are working with the government of Nigeria and other national governments, Finland among them, many African governments too, and governments in Latin America and Asia, to support a new UN resolution on evaluation, which is focused on country-led evaluation towards the SDGs. We had an excellent high-level political forum event in the summer at the ECOSOC at the UN in New York, and I'd encourage people to look that out because that was a wonderful event and brought together a multiplicity of voices. We're very clear now that UN member states will be working to try to put in place a new resolution as we go into 2022, and that's going to be a very important deliverable for Eval Partners, and again we hope it will help to drive forwards progress towards 2030 and galvanise us as an evaluation community, a multi-stakeholder community, in the way that the last resolution enabled us to move the dial significantly. Underpinning that, people have emphasised the need for coherence and to ensure we have clear principles for working together to get the most out of the multi-stakeholder engagement. And again, the need for transformational change, and in particular, I think we should really celebrate and draw on the capacities and the potential role of young and emerging evaluators who have been bringing such great energy and leadership and commitment. And that really is a stake in the future. Far beyond 2030, I should say. Other people have emphasised the importance of professionalisation and the need for diversity in our profession and how we embrace diversity in our work. And again, the other strand that I've picked up from the panellists today is the crucial importance of knowledge generation and the need for better tools and approaches to enable us to ensure that no one's left behind and to embrace diversity. Linked to this is the need for this downstream accountability, which Svetlana talked about, and Asela has also highlighted the importance of getting our communication tools right and approaches to enable us to better meet the user's needs for this very valuable evidence that we're generating from our evaluations within each and every evaluation, but also importantly across communities, across geographies, because this knowledge that we're creating is vitally important to share and disseminate to drive us towards, in the short term or medium term, to delivery of the SDGs. So I'll close by reminding you what I said at the beginning. You know, Eval Partners has demonstrated once before that this wide community can rally behind a shared vision for evaluation, and we can certainly do it again by recommitting to the Eval Agenda 2030. And from Eval Partners, as one of the co-chairs at the moment, we really invite everyone to sign up to be part of the Eval Agenda journey and to participate in the various upcoming consultations and events, and to, in 2022, recommitting to the Eval Agenda 2030. With that, I'd really like to thank Veronica for excellent moderation of this session, and all our panelists for really fantastic contributions, allowing us to reflect on where we've come from and think through where we're going. So thank you very much for everyone for sharing their thoughts and reflections today. It's been a fabulous session, and I'm very happy to have been a contributor to it. Good day.
Thank you, everyone. We wish
Thank
you.
Thank you, Andrea. Bye-bye. Good day.